we are going to start off the day with none other than Dr. Paul Zhivago and his demonstration and discussion on prosthodontics. So we'll be back in a moment with Dr. Paul Zhivago here live from the ZBrush Summit 2022. Louis Tucci, Paul Gaboury. Sit tight and stay tuned.
There he is.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Paul, welcome to the set.
Welcome.
Hey guys,
Welcome
thank you.
to the set.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can I say? I mean, for me as a dentist, you know, to be here is really special. So thanks for having me.
We're honored. We're honored to have you. I want to give kudos where kudos are deserved. He's nominated in 2017 for the Edison Award and voted 2017 as one of the top 40 dentists under 40. A high distinction. Really pleased to have you here in the United States. An innovator in the field of digital dentistry, along with opening up workflows in CAD/CAM and making it possible for the future of dentistry to be a burgeoning subject in the field. I can't say how much, how much we really.
Thank you, Louis. This is like really, thank you for the great introduction. So as I am a dentist, I kind of have to tell a little bit my story because it's a little bit unusual. But it made a lot of sense for me to use ZBrush, and I want to show you guys a little bit how, and then we'll do a little demo and see how I do this. So in terms of like how I started, being a prosthodontist, which is a restorative specialist in dentistry, I need a tool that can do pretty much everything because sometimes I get cases that are not so simple. So certain dental software is very linear, and I have to be able to kind of think out of the box and read out or work out of the box. So what happened was that I was always a little bit into art, and I was drawing a lot, and I started probably at the end of the 90s to play around with 3D to a very small extent. And I was more or less familiar with 3D programs. Started my career.
So you're saying that leading up to your dentistry career, you were actually interested in maybe computer design and animation-driven type of processes? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. I was drawing a lot of stuff, but I wasn't really good at perspectives. So what I did is using like shapes as a background in Photoshop in 3D shapes to kind of come about better aesthetic draw. And I played a lot of video games as well. So, I kind of had an idea, what can be done with this. And after a certain time, I figured, let me just do only 3D instead of just Photoshop and this and that. So
excellent.
Yeah. Now, when I studied for my dental education, I was pretty much we had to do a lot of dental anatomy, and I was playing around with softwares with 3D Max, Maya, and this and that, and I was spending a lot of time at Barnes & Noble, and they had a fantastic magazine section there, and when you study a lot, you start also to procrastinate a lot, and I was reading through these magazines, and it was basically all these softwares that were there were really great, but there was
they're
always
telling me in the back to put your presentation in presentation mode.
Oh, is it?
On your computer.
Yeah, on the computer.
It's not in presentation mode. Let me see if...
I'm not sure.
1 second, everybody, as we make sure you can see Paul's screen.
Is that better? Is that...
All good. Perfect.
We're good.
Okay, now here we are.
There we go.
ZBrush and Dentistry.
Hey, we're doing this live. Let me just say thank you so much for your patience, everybody, and also Paul for your
help
there. Thank you.
So endless possibilities, and basically what I really want to have, if I do dentistry, especially digital dentistry. So as I mentioned, I spent here, this is the Barnes & Noble in New York, hours studying there and reading magazines, and there was always at that time, about 2007, 2008, the ZBrushes that would have very high detailed characters. There was a lot of details that were almost to another level than what I could do. And I figured I just have to look into this and kind of get myself familiar with this. And I played around with getting concepts of how to make software as Maya and 3D Max dental to convert it to dentistry. And I got myself a copy of ZBrush, and then what happens was that I was a student, I didn't really have like money for a workstation at that point in time, it was like very expensive, and I installed ZBrush on this tablet. So I had like this tablet that basically was on the Windows 2000 or a little bit better, but it wasn't anything special. I started to kind of sculpt the first things, and then all of a sudden I realized, wow, this is like wax, this is like what we do in dentistry. So I started to really experiment, do my dental anatomy, and this is like, for example, a picture that I'm not sure who did this, but this level of detail of Woody Allen is so extreme that it looks real, and that's beyond what we need in dentistry. But obviously, like this is a very potent tool. So after I familiarized myself a little bit with ZBrush, I created my own tooth library, so I can use these teeth, and I will show you guys also how. And this is a little bit, me sculpting just straight from squares, a little bit from less detail to more detailed. So I'm going from macro structures to microstructures, and I created my own library. So what I do is when I start to work on these teeth and the anatomy of the teeth, I try not to use too many brushes, because I also teach that at school. I work for NYU, and I teach my residents there in the postgraduate department. So most of the time what I use is basically the move tool, the clay tool, and the Damien Standard, one of my favorites. I think everybody loves that one. And more a little bit, I go a little bit into Sculptress, and it's pretty much my approach is to show people that we have to, start to get in very slowly, and then you build up based on more knowledge and create more of tools that you will need for ZBrush. And what happens with dentistry is basically you have features in teeth. For example, the front teeth or the back teeth, they have different type of functions. And I believe that if you have certain elements to it that don't look right, so if we design teeth in a way that they would all look the same, intuitively we know that this is not going to work. This looks wrong to us. And I call this also a little bit like functional aesthetics, because when we look at certain things, that they make sense to us, they look also very aesthetic. So if they have action in the nature, like we are pleased by them, like, almost like psychologically. It's the same thing if you see a baby and all the features that they have, you like it automatically. The same thing is also relevant for design. And we see that in architecture. Certain buildings are built in a way, but they have to function. And when we see that, we have a guideline like how to build them. And also, in terms of when I design teeth for my patients, we basically have to scan them. So this is something that we use in dentistry, that we capture the teeth as a 3D model. But once I have that 3D model, I meet the person and I talk to that person how that person wants to become, or how the person wants to be seen. And by this interaction, I put my input in my work in the tooth design, basically. And that is something that can be done in ZBrush, because you're sculpting it, you're the artist, and whatever inspires you at that moment, you will definitely put in. Every design is different, every design is really individually specific. And that's really why I like the software, and I think it's really adding a lot to my industry. we have a lot of things going on in dentistry that is also related to AI in terms of having AI design certain things. But I think that one thing we shouldn't forget that at this point in time, AI is not so good that it will create creativity. So like the master lab technicians or the people that do all the lab work, they work in wax. These are like individuals that have their own style, like an artist that comes to a level that AI cannot do. And let's be honest. I mean, if we would use only the same tooth libraries for everybody, then it wouldn't be really like an art form.
Well, you'd have one smile to rule them all.
Right.
That line will never go anywhere. You can use it anywhere. You can use it in so many places. It's
One smile to rule them all. Can you imagine?
So, but Paul, speaking of that, right, because each tooth obviously is going to be different. So how are you deciding, like, you're making molars, you're making canines, and
incisors.
Thank
here.
you.
Hey, now.
Thank you, Louis, for the help there. So how are you deciding, okay, this person I'm going to do, is it just I'll do a different looking molar? Is there anything that comes into play for you, like, when you're putting the teeth together for a patient that, oh, okay, these ones, are you basing it off other teeth in the scan?
So there's a couple of things that, are more or less like accepted rules. So especially the front teeth, from the canines, even to the premolars, have to have a flow with the face.
Okay.
So we decide based on the factor where the lip is, how much tooth display there is. You cannot say certain words if your tooth length is, for example, not long enough. So there's so you cannot say, I'll give you an example, you cannot say V or F sounds without touching the lower lip.
Everyone's doing this in front of their monitors right now.
Right, so it's not that
easy. That's true.
And then there's like certain shapes of the teeth by themselves that have to be in certain proportions.
Okay.
And then you can kind of play around with that. So it's basically the same idea as, when an artist makes a character, the head can be, bigger or smaller, but like aesthetically speaking, it has to have a flow with the whole object. And when I design the teeth, I don't design the teeth in and of itself. I take photos of the patient, the whole face. Everything has to work for the patient. And what we do is we have ways of using the 3D models and insert them in the patient's mouth for the patient to evaluate. Now that's very important because if you think about it, when you do dentistry, I mean, nobody gets up in the morning and says, hey, today's my dental appointment, I'm so happy to go there. So there's like a certain anxiety to go there because that might be like painful, it might be very costly, and at the end of the day, you don't really know what you get. But at least that aspect with 3D design and designing it with the patient together is taking a little bit away of the apprehension because you are part of the process.
Right.
So, and in ZBrush, you can do these designs very quickly. I mean, it's a matter of seconds just to move.
So on the screen right now, actually, what the viewers are seeing is two different samples. Is that
so? This is like on the right side, we have basically like dental library. This is one of a very popular softwares that is used in dentistry. And I'm a big proponent of open architecture. So you basically can take all these softwares and combine them. And I just took that library and moved it into ZBrush. I was playing a little bit with Dynamesh, used a couple of alphas here, and made something a little bit more realistic. So we do have these micro cracks in the teeth, and if I can work to this level, then I'm more than happy. So that's basically why I use ZBrush a lot, because I can customize it a lot. So. And what happened was that I realized that there's a lot of potential for this in dentistry, and I basically contacted ZBrush and to ask them if you guys are interested in also the dental part of
right.
The industry, and it's like a story that I was working. In an office. I wanted to buy that office in New York, and
hold on a second. You were working as a dentist,
right? I was already working as a dentist, okay. And I was using ZBrush for my patients, and started to kind of figure out how I can use it. And my intention was to buy this office, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. And prior to that, I booked my flight to LA, my first ZBrush convention, and I was very upset because it didn't work out with the office, and basically I quit my job. So I was sitting in a plane, having a family, no job, going to LA randomly and kind of trying to pitch an idea, and you know, this is how it started. So I talked to you know, you guys basically, and you liked it, and then I started to become like more and more involved into it, and I was also working at NYU and started to use ZBrush for dentistry and teach it also like to my students and residents.
I want to interject about something, you know, because we have a similar parallel, yourself and myself. We've been talking off camera as well, just sort of stumbled into ZBrush as a failed attempt to be in architecture. And I think that sometimes it's quite positive to have setbacks or to have the road that you thought maybe you were planning out. Who hasn't come here in a car ride to California to try to find the ZBrush? Here we are, all three of us, united by
Pretty
that
much
one.
the story for a lot of people.
Yeah, the common thread is that ZBrush has brought us together. But the real question I have for you is, you took upon yourself the torch of using the ZBrush. Let's go back to the time when you were a student, if we may. What kind of influence was it having in your experience as a student, or was it not being functionally used at that point?
So what you do as a student, when you start dental school, you basically have to learn the anatomy very well. So what they use is sometimes wax, or they give you soap and you have a knife and you carve it out.
And in traditional methods, you're using your hands to sculpt these things.
So in doing that digitally, you can learn the anatomy in your bedroom or whatever, you know, you just work on a computer, you have all these tools. It's exactly the same, maybe even better because it's cleaner.
Right.
And this is how it starts in dental school.
So let's frame it for the people at home watching. Somewhere some kid is watching this thinking, I want to be a dentist. You get shoved in this class on prosthodontics as a sort of student, and you think you have to learn how to sculpt at the same time that you're learning all about this other technical stuff. How harrowing of a journey was that for you to learn how to sculpt those things?
I mean, I would say it's very intuitive because back then when I was working with other 3D programs, the rendering took a long time, you know, all these like little, you know, details were taking a lot of time, and ZBrush was very fluent. So like even with smaller computer or less resources, you could just like start to sculpt and let it go. And sometimes you don't even know where you're ending up with. So you just like let your creativity go, and you're getting to a point. I mean, we have like in dentistry rules how a shape has to be, but there's variations to that, so everybody can come up with their own style. So and I don't feel it's very hard to learn. I have a lot of residents that pick it up very quickly. So right now I'm the course director of digital dentistry at NYU at the postgraduate program, and this is a mandatory course. So what we're doing is in the summer, I make a demo about an hour, show them the basics, and then they just have to sculpt the tooth or do some sort of shape. And I mean, I don't need more than an hour to just have like somebody going and just like sculpt right away. So that's why I try to not really make it too complicated. So it's all like more organic sculpting, no hard surface or stuff like that. But like they pick it up very, very quickly.
I think it's incredible. You have an opportunity to affect change, as we were talking about, Paul, earlier. We really have this parallel in the educational realms. Yourself and myself coming back after a long stint.
I was not immediately like admitted at NYU either, and you know, it's frustrating. But my wife told me like, listen, everything happens for a reason, and that's exactly what it is. So I'm glad that.
The other thing is, Paul, is also fascinating. Both Pauls, hey, here we are.
You're sandwiched by Paul.
I'm sandwiched by Paul. Dr. Zhivago, the other thing that I wanted to sort of touch base with you on was the concept of going back into the space of being an educator. How did this transpire? You were obviously a practicing dentist. Is it just natural circumstance because of your work in ZBrush, or is it something you had planned for professionally?
I mean, my education was very good. I'm very like loyal to, you know, the people that helped me, my teachers, and I do work 5 days a week in my office, but I still want to keep one day for education because I just want to give it back. And I think like I have here something that I can contribute to dentistry, and it has a lot of value, and I really want to do that. So that's really important to me. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really enjoy to do this because it's very artistic, and I just enjoy it. I love it.
Excellent. Yeah.
So
It's a fascinating field.
At the same time, so what also happened, and I think was very cool, is that when I came to the first ZBrush convention, I met Dan Ketcher. So that was like in 2007.
You know, he's up next.
Yeah. So
fascinating.
we're good buddies. So, and I loved his stuff. Like, first of all, I love Game of Thrones, fantastic. But what I really liked was that he was doing the skeleton, the muscles, and everything underneath the dragon. So that's kind of like getting this creature that doesn't really exist to like a hyper-realistic like concept. So that's like this functional aesthetic that I'm also relating to teeth. So you make something that, you know, will function in a way, you know, like a dragon cannot be too big, or, you know, there's certain things that he really incorporated in his designs. And I just messaged him on Facebook and asked him, hey, Dan, you know, do you want to lecture with me at NYU? We bring the art school together and the dental school together on ZBrush. So you do your dragons, I do my teeth, but we have something in common. So the art school came, the dental school came, and yeah, this is a picture that, you know, we were like lecturing at NYU, and it's very like unique to have like two completely different branches together, you know, and just really like you know, come together like that.
I think that speaks volumes to the faculty and the directors of the New York University, regardless of the departments. They break that siloed structure that is typical in an educational institution. I think that's part of the work, is to sort of take those barriers away and move into a space where things are more of a fusion-based educational circumstance for people. And I think what you guys are doing is just that.
I mean, 100%. You have to have some. NYU was very like open to it and very progressive, and it was like a pilot thing. And now it became a full course. And you know, me and Dan, we actually lectured last week together in Austin, Texas, to one of the biggest prosthodontic meetings. And it's definitely you know, a great thing. You know, I mean, we had a great time, and people understand now like the relevance of this.
How would you gauge the response that they're having, your colleagues in the field, regardless of what they're doing as just as general practitioners in the dentistry field? How are they responding to this digital sculpting?
I mean, this is a very new thing, and you know, you have to be to a certain level of you know, technology that you're understanding this, and there's a little bit of generation gap here that happens in dentistry. I think that the young people are like very open to it and understand it, and you know, there's a lot of people that you know, like it, and it's something that started to become more and more popular. Like digital dentistry is huge right now. I mean, this is probably like the most popular thing, but having like a software available that can create these details, and we get out of the automation into something, you know, unique and creative is like really the top of the ice cake, kind of like, you know, I like it. A lot of people do as well. So
it sounds like they're having a lot of fun. What do you think?
Yeah, fun is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You guys are like a traveling show now.
That's what. Yeah, they're like the.
Paul and Dan are everywhere.
Paul and Dan, and Louis and Paul, they're in ZBrush and the dentistry. So that's, you know, that part of it is really, really great, because I think it wakes up this concept of, even academically speaking, not to get into sort of academia and a snobbery of academia, we know that it exists, but I think that there's that element of saying, how are the students being prepared then for future course offerings? That was something I was dying to ask you. If they have to have this sort of artistic capacity, are they given sort of a mix of classes that are, is there a plan to do that, to have maybe a fusion of someone who might go into prosthodontics or cosmetic dentistry taking more artistic classes, to have that skill set?
I mean, aesthetic dentistry or dentistry in general has definitely like a component of art. So there's no question that this will be relevant for you know, this industry. Now, most of the people that go in that field, especially in academia, as a student, they want to do something medically, but they also want to do something like with their hands, artistic. So they're already like there in their mindset. So some people are more or less artistic, but this has to be added, in my opinion, to dentistry.
So someone like Paul Gaber, you could be a dentist too.
Probably not, but I can make some teeth. I don't know if they'd be accurate.
Yeah, you make some teeth. I made a lot of teeth, right?
How big's your library now, Paul, of your teeth?
I don't really have a number, but it's constantly changing. So obviously every patient gets something different. And
you're saving each one of those out, these teeth, every time you do a tooth?
No, I actually don't anymore.
Oh, no?
Because it's just like you go on, do new ones, just maybe modify the old ones. I will show you guys a little bit the process. So
we'd love to see that. Yeah.
I'm working with multiple softwares and combine them. So it's something that basically is done, with ZBrush and other softwares, because certain things are not necessarily like easy to do without some certain specific dental, rules, or I think I have to show this. So this was just like, on my MacBook Pro, I think in 2019, Dan left his Dragon, and I kind of like moved it around, and it was just like fascinated, by the level of, detail. So I think we have here like about like 83 million points, which I don't even think that there's any dental software that comes even close to this level of detail. So yeah, we showcased this at NYU, and what happened was after I did the program or started the program, we did also a lot of research. So there's actually a lot of like dental research that has ZBrush incorporated into it from design aspects, also like from aspects of verifying how the fit is and all this. So like we had even won the first place with the ZBrush type of design on a dental patient that it's definitely like something that we use all the time. So
do you get any strange requests? Because at this point it's possible to have any kind of teeth you want, perhaps.
Well, what happens is if you can tell somebody that you can have whatever you want, then there's no limit. So like sometimes like, the designs change from A to Z like extremely much. But at the end of the day, you can provide something very unique that the patient can make these requests as well. And you have to be prepared for that. So if one design doesn't work out so well, you just have to change it up. And
you know what's coming next. What are some of the drawbacks to having the man with a platinum smile?
I don't know. Is there any drawbacks? So, it's...
Just brush them as is.
That's right.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You can see the hamster turning in my head as we speak.
Well, I'm seriously going to make the sign. It's going to happen.
You need this. What sign are you talking about? Some people
that's a moment with
That's
Louis.
a Tucci right there.
That's what we're going to be doing. Yeah, Paul's got some more stuff he definitely wants to show too.
So, I can basically show you guys. So this is like a dental scan. So this is how it starts when you start the process. Was that on? Or so this is a scanner. So the scanner is basically going over the teeth. It creates a 3D model. And this 3D model, this is now a temporary, these are not real teeth, but that's basically also what happens in the mouth. And this is how we digitize things. So it becomes like an STL file, a PLY file, or an OBJ file. And clinically
What's the scanner you're using? Oh, Sprint.
This is the process. So I start up with a software that is a 2D software, where I show the patient more or less in a 2D way how they might look. Then we digitize the existing teeth. And then we can download libraries from this software or create your own design by overlaying it in ZBrush and create a 3D print. Now, when the 3D print is done, then we will make a mold out of that and insert it in the patient's mouth. Now, there's a little bit more complex cases where we need also to consider the back teeth. So the back teeth have in dentistry multiple functions, and there's also a hinge axis, so I will explain how we go a little bit about that. But this is like a little bit of video how this 2D to 3D process works. So basically, SmileCloud is a software that we have to take some nice photography, and there's some reference planes, like the mouth, the eyes, and the teeth are generated to certain references that I give or I input. And then what happens is that you can download the files, the teeth files. So here I have the teeth files, and I will go over that a little bit slower in the demo. And you can use the pictures before and after in the background and kind of overlay it and put the teeth in the right position. So here I had to reduce the teeth because that's what you have to do sometimes in dentistry, like shave them a little bit. And you just basically put the teeth in. I work a lot with groups, auto groups, and this and that. And once it's done, you just export them as a 3D object. You print them out, and this is a typical case. So like somebody's coming in, is not happy. We're having the initial part on the left upper side, and this is the first design on the upper right side. And then we will bring it into ZBrush, the scan and the teeth that were designed. And we create the 3D print. So the 3D print is basically, the gray tooth mold that you have there, and we'll make another silicone impression of that. And that silicone impression will be injected with a temporary material. And then on the lower right side, left side, you can see like how that overlays over the patient. So this is basically, you can see a little bit like the excess of the material. And then we clean it all up on the lower right side. And these are temporary. So with the temporaries, the patient can basically walk out of the office, eat, speak, show their family or friends if they like it or not. And then they come back, and then we can redesign it. And that's basically like how we do it. So this initial design can be done like multiple times. So this temporary material can just come off and then will be added back on. And then after one step or multiple steps, when the patient is happy, what we do is we will rescan this again, send this to our lab partners, and they will make this in porcelain. So this is basically before, temps, and after.
So you get to test drive your smile.
Exactly. That's exactly what you do.
I'm digging it, Paul.
And
you're learning a lot, Louis.
Very
Man, I've been
natural. Like we try to make it natural. We don't want to have it like that somebody compliments somebody for their fake teeth. So nobody likes that.
No.
And
I always wonder
Unless
what
you're a
that would
hockey
sound.
player.
Yeah, I
Unless
guess
you're a hockey player.
Yeah, I would wonder what that sound like. Hey, those fake teeth you've got in there look phenomenal. How much was that smile?
No one's definitely doing that. That's for sure.
Let me stop you right there. Hey, how much did that smile cost? Said no one ever. That's funny stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the process is not really so difficult, and the patients can choose what they want. So it's really like, whatever you like, you're part of it, and it's very successful.
We could do a long sort of user story where I replace and repair my hockey damaged front teeth, and we chronicle the whole thing. And
we can
the
work
birth
together.
of a smile.
So you design them,
Yeah.
and I'll put them in.
I come to you with just to say ZBrush right across there.
If you want that, do
Platinum
it.
teeth.
Done.
Just do a grill. Just
That's
put
what
the
I'm
grill.
saying. No, I want them in there.
You want them in there?
The man with the platinum smile that
Right.
says just the ZBrush logo.
Okay.
Ching.
That is branding at its finest right there. That's branding at its finest for sure. What scanner was that you were using?
I knew you were going to ask that.
I'm working with a Korean company, Medit.
Medit?
Medit.
Okay.
So the scanner that I use is basically a scanner that exports open architecture files. So PLY, STL, and OBJ go straight, into my computer, and then I can do with the files whatever I want. So I always, because I know a little bit, I was a little bit more exposed to 3D workflows before I became a dentist. that you have to be, like in an open environment, because you have to be able to work with different softwares and bring them together, and you can. In dentistry, sometimes you have just like one software that drives you linear to a workflow and then gives you a result, but then you get stuck sometimes in that architecture and you cannot move, sideways or, create new things. So I always push the open architecture workflow. And Meta does that, so you just scan, get the files, and then, you have to be able to design, but, that's basically what I was interested in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's really neat to see that happening. I just really, the real learning experience for me today was the test drive, the Smile test drive.
Yeah.
You get to test it out. I come to your house and I say, hey, Paul. And then you say, you're looking good.
I don't think he's coming to your house to do it.
No, I come to your house.
Him.
I'm saying I test drive my teeth on you.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
if you don't like it, you come back.
Come back?
Go back and forth.
Let's do it again.
Like a demo head right there.
Oh, geez, now you're going off into
Right?
places that I don't know what you want to.
Yeah.
No.
No?
Don't do it. I don't know if you want to do that, for sure. So there's a lot of people actually in the chat, Paul, that have like family members that are in dentistry and stuff, and some of them are like, hey, I don't know if my family actually has gotten into digital for dentistry or would even do it. Do you have any recommendations, maybe some web pages or places that maybe these artists can share with their family members that are in your industry?
Good question.
Say, hey, here's some great information to understand how to do digital work.
I mean, it's probably like not bad to look into like social media. There's a lot of people that use all kind of systems. There's some books, but the books are very like, they're a little bit like, I would say it's not necessary you get the newest information there. Like a lot of courses are, everywhere. So I think that it's also important to know what you want to do in dentistry because there's different branches. So like, let's say like a orthodontist who makes braces needs digital tools for another reason than I would need and this and that. I mean, I'm happy, like, at the end of my presentation, I share my info and, you can just contact me and can make any kind of,
What a guy. And that's the hallmark of our community is the sharing and spreading of information for the benefit of others. Is there any other interesting questions that you came across in this feed here?
Some people were asking what would have happened to the coloring of the teeth once you make the tooth and then you make the final one and put it in the patient's mouth.
So basically, like what we do is we take before it goes out to the lab a shade. So we have like colors that we show to the patient. They're like very dental specific, and that will be just photographed. It will be communicated to the lab, and they know to match it. So if you don't like your color, and you can also bleach, and then you would take the shade after that. Or if you have more work done where all the teeth have to be like, worked on, then you just choose the color that you want. I mean,
I've got a question. In the case of, no, this is a serious question.
Okay.
In the case of an existing prosthetic, what would happen then? You would just grind it down? And there's nothing like the smell and the sound of a grinding down of a tooth.
Right, so unfortunately, if you have an existing prosthetic that has to come off, and they're designed in a way that they shouldn't come off, so yes, we grind them down.
Wow.
You burn them off?
No. There's like techniques to do it a little bit more smooth.
Okay.
So you basically like create like some slot in the restoration, and then you split it, and then it comes off. So yeah.
And when you're doing that, but that makes me, because obviously you're probably gonna have to put them.
I'm
down
forecasting
for that,
my own future here.
Probably. For the scan, are they awake when you're doing the scan, or is it easier?
The scan is just like a camera that goes over your teeth. That's just totally.
Oh, that wand doesn't go inside the mouth?
It goes in your mouth, and you just move it around.
So it's pretty quick then, and you're getting accurate.
Yeah. I mean, you can, like, we had a contest with a bunch of dentists, and, I think I scanned my whole mouth in under 37 seconds.
So you guys did a timed contest? To see
Yeah.
who
It was like a bunch
scans?
of people.
The social life of
It was like,
Everyone's doing competition.
Friday night at Dr. Zhivago's house, they've got a scanning contest happening.
That's actually would be pretty fun.
Okay,
Where do
ready,
you guys
set,
do
go.
that? Do you guys just do it like at a convention center or something?
No,
or
no,
convention?
it was like a bunch of people that kind of are like me doing a lot of digital dentistry, and then they made a challenge, who's the fastest? And
Nice.
they passed it on.
I like it, man.
That's kind of
That puts a smile on my face.
funny.
It's
I'll tell
great.
you what, though, to go back to your point, yes, the fear, when you said, yeah, we probably have to grind that down or crack it and such, Mike, I gripped the desk a little harder. There's no pain like that pain of having.
Look, this is why you're supposed to brush your teeth every day, multiple times.
I did.
a day,
Hey, I've got some
and
nice
floss,
teeth. I'm just
okay?
talking about a hockey
pain in
injury.
dentistry nowadays. This is like modern dentistry should have not pain. Like really, like that's.
Yeah, it's not $18.99, man. I mean, and I have really clean teeth. I mean, look at
Couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've got more stuff too you want
Let's
to share,
get to
Paul.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
on your slide.
this is like another thing. So when we work on the back teeth, the way the jaw moves is very important. So it's not just the design of the aesthetic, it's also the function. And we have a bunch of like terms, you know, where the teeth are in the rest positions, how much space you have. So the way I approach that, because it's a little bit more complex, I start up the same way. I go into ZBrush and I start to design again the smile. And I use for the back teeth my libraries because they're a little bit more complex and it's just easier for me like to put them in. And when I'm done with this design, then what happens is basically that you have like the teeth in the correct way, but only in a static position. So that's not really how we function because you move your lower jaw around and there are certain things that you don't want the teeth to hit in the wrong way, that it can cause like other problems as wear and this and that. And this is kind of how I work about that. So I basically design the teeth one more time. By the way, ZBrush has this fantastic tool where you can use the other model as a reference to create occlusion. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm shaving the teeth based on the other model. And then once I'm done with this static, position of the teeth, what I do is I import them in another software because it's all open and that's how it should be, which is called Exocad. So you can see here that you have basically the lower and upper jaw in this blue thing, which is called an articulator that simulates the movement of the jaw. And what Exocad is doing is it runs through the movements. So when it does that, you create some sort of, you can see like these yellow teeth that have little dots.
Yeah.
And these are the movements that may hinder your jaw, to move healthy.
Those are points of impact.
Right. And Exocad is removing these automatically. So my 3D file becomes also accurate in a dynamic way.
Wow.
And then basically the same thing. So we're creating shells which can be put on teeth that will be prepared, or these mock-ups. And we also have like protocols for digital dentures in ZBrush. Then we do also have implant restoration where you get, the implant is basically something that goes into the bone and the tooth will be anchored if you don't have a tooth there. And all these things can be done in ZBrush and basically, again, like dentistry without any limits. So that's,
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
You're going to know I did my homework on this one.
Go ahead.
How does that effectively work to, or how do you work to minimize recession in the gum when you have this prosthetic process?
Yeah, I mean, recession, there's a lot of stuff. So maybe like from the design aspect, if you create the teeth in a way that they, like the teeth and the gums, they have a certain flow, right? And if you make them too big, then, food might get stuck there, or, that could be like a problem that would cause recession. Recession is a little bit also related to age. Unfortunately, everybody gets a little bit of recession. Toothbrushing, like wrong toothbrushing, wrong technique, too much force. By the way, if I can leave like a dental advice, always use a soft toothbrush. It's perfect. You don't need more. No hard toothbrushes. So
Soft
Soft toothbrush.
Did everyone get that?
I got
Use a
that from a
soft
dentist too. They told me don't use any hard toothbrush bristles ever.
You're fine. Like
Stay
soft is perfect.
So then why did they make them, right?
I don't know.
Like it's another way marketing probably, I guess.
I got my own recession because of a hard toothbrush, so it's definitely not.
Yeah.
I used to feverishly brush my teeth as like in my early 20s and my late teens. I'd be brushing my teeth all the time,
Right.
And I think
you should, but like not too.
Yeah, I bet I'm
too much,
over. I bet I'm
taking the
over
enamel
brushing
off,
them.
right?
Yeah, I was like trying to get the whitest, brightest smile possible. Bam, I'm blind the guy. You know what I mean?
Okay, I gotcha.
So we're going to move into the demonstration part, I think. Is that?
Yeah,
Is that
I
cool?
mean, this is like maybe if anybody's interested on more of this, so I have.
He's got a couple more slides.
Oh yeah, don't rush on our behalf. Are you kidding? I thought that was up.
You can find me on
15 minutes.
Instagram, and we have a couple of courses, and
Yeah,
where
put
I
up his
kind
screen there for us.
of get
Okay.
into,
you
this
go.
is like my handles on social media and the QR code for courses, how to use it.
Yeah, we'll leave that up there for a minute so they
Yeah,
can
leave it up there, especially for those people that have family members.
Yeah.
This is the guy, obviously, they should reach out to. And it sounds like Paul's traveling, doing presentations.
The Traveling Tooth Show with Paul Zhivago
Paul and Dan are everywhere.
Yes.
and Dan Catcher. He's
Where are you guys next is what I want to know. Where's the next? It's like,
Well,
really, you guys need
talk
like
to
a
Ted
t-shirt.
about it, but like
Right.
it's great. We have even some international things going on. So
That's awesome.
That's really cool. And he's a good artist in his own right, so it's a nice fusion. I'm really happy to see the fusion of science and technology and art happening that way. Really good stuff.
Yeah, so before you head over to the other computer, you got a video too that we want to share with everybody that you also
absolutely.
put together. So we'll play that video because you're heading over to the other computer now, correct, Paul? Yeah. So this is a video from
So
you.
this is just like straight up sculpting of. I use a little bit masks here, nothing, too
You
crazy.
can adjust that if you want. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
So this is you working on a particular patient's
right. So
mouth
this
and
is the
fixing.
patient that
So before and after.
before and after, right? So this
Yeah.
is just without necessarily like having like a background photo, or this is like a little bit more an easier process. So you just design the teeth. I want to show you guys a little bit like how I do this whole overlay thing. That let me just move this here a little bit around.
Do a little
Okay,
quick
so
adjust.
here we go. So here we are in the ZBrush interface. So lightbox off. Let's create a new document. I just like to have it wide open. So the first thing that you basically do is like you import basically the intraoral scan. So here we have a bunch of scans. So let's start with the upper PLY is like a good file in terms of like color and not too data heavy. So we'll just pull this out, edit. This is a great, the skin shade is fantastic. So it's pretty much exactly how, you have.
So this is the raw scan data.
This is the raw scan of a patient, which is my wife. I have the permission to use this.
What a time to
Hey,
be
honey,
alive.
honey, we're gonna use your
Yeah,
teeth.
Sit
she's
still a minute.
outside, I'm getting like,
So hold on, while you're showing that, I want to ask something. I've noticed something in the last couple of scans that you've demonstrated. Is it a fair assertion to make that there is disequilibrium in the construction of the actual jawbones in people, that there is some slight variation? Or is that based on tooth length and growth?
I mean,
Or is it on
like,
skeletal construction?
so basically the growth process is giving the bone and the teeth the direction and the shape. So there's no symmetry there at all. I mean, there's nothing symmetric.
There's a
in the
perception
body.
of symmetry is what we're getting at.
Right.
Right.
But there's a certain level of like things that might look a little bit better if you modify them to a way that it looks right. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of everything perfectly the same, but if that's the requested, then that's what we're going to do.
Okay, interesting. That's a very, very important point, actually. It comes directly from sort of an artistic pursuit, which is to say that asymmetrical design is probably more appealing for many reasons.
Right, but I mean, that's a discussion that I have to have with the patient what they want, and if it's not harming, because if you make teeth too long, too short, then you can have more problematic situations. I'm all about it. So
Right.
yeah, and what happens is if you scan, so what the scan does is it captures the upper lower jaw, and then you create a scan where the upper lower jaws together, and then it fuses these jaws, which we call the bite. So what I do is I just duplicate like the initial STL file, and then I bring in the lower arch here, and it falls right in place. So this is perfect occlusion and ZBrush. So everything is transferred from the scanner software to ZBrush, and it looks all perfectly fine. Now the next step is we kind of have to take some really good photography. what I do is I open the textures and bring in the photography. So I have taken photos of the patient prior. So this is basically one that I bring in, and then another texture here is the second picture. Open. So now we have them both basically in the texture menu. And then what I need is like basically a floor. So let me move these things around, and I go into the draw menu. Let me bring that over here, and go to basically this front and back, panel, and bring in the pictures on the map side. So we have this one and that, and here is, I have to rotate that, so that's usually basically the best way, and we go back to the fill mode. So the fill mode is something that as further I go like to the higher value, my picture will be more clear and my cast will be more see-through. So basically like, I can see like a little bit the background of the patient here. And what I do is in fill mode 3, I do an enhancement factor of 1. So this makes it really very see-through. So this way I can really figure out where this should be. And this is basically, let me just put this in like that because you want to see the face. So this is basically the standard, the initial picture that we took. And then you can switch it to the proposed one. So this will be basically the proposed one. It's important that you take the pictures as a full screenshot, that you don't have to, align them. This is just a lot of time that is, wasted for that. And then I basically use, all my, what's it called here? All my subtools. Click this on and move them in the right direction. We align this as good as we can. So I have something that I basically want to open because I did this all prior. I don't want to waste too much time on that. So let me just get this one in. And so here we have this pretty much aligned. So this is basically like the scan overlaid over the existing teeth. And what I did is I have a library of teeth, that are part of the final restorative work or the proposed one. And let's go to this. So let's have these tools. And then if, let's say like, I like basically, the shape or of the teeth, I'm just moving these, in the right position. And what we also can do is, in terms of moving these teeth around, if it's not like necessary, like in the right position at this point, you can use the polygroup menu. So I usually take the lines off, see more colors, auto group these, polygroups, auto group. And then just to move them around as one subtool without like switching from multiple subtools, you basically you have to be in a mode, scale or rotate mode, and then control, mask the other ones, and this way you kind of move them around, and it's pretty straightforward. And you put them in the right position. Now, and I'm not going to do that because we have just a limited amount of time, but there's a couple of other things that I want to show you guys, which is, I think, really cool, and it's a very easy thing to do in ZBrush. So let me just turn this off. So what I showed was basically how to do a mock-up, which will be added on the teeth that are there. But sometimes we have to make these shells, and this is a very simple thing to do here as well. So let me just go to
Just want to give you a time check too, Paul, so you know you got
Okay.
about 8 minutes.
All right.
So
I mean, I'm going to. That's more than enough. So let me just unselect that. So you basically can create just some masking to these teeth. Very simple. I'm going a little bit quicker here because.
Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
So then I'm just invert the masking. You might want to just make sure that this is a little bit more, where's the, like you can sharpen this a little bit. And you go to subtools again and then to the extract button. So the extract button is fantastic. So what you can do is you can basically project things from one surface inside or outside. So if you want to do crowns, you should be like around like a smoothness 50 or something like that, and then minus area. So minus 0.3 or something like that. Let's say this would work. And then you extract, keep double off, and you accept it, and then you create another subtool that is basically your shells. And they will be just, you know, you might want to like just, they can be 3D printed, and then you can prepare the teeth, and they will fit on whatever preparation. You just realign them, and you know you're good to go for back teeth. I use this a lot. Or
Right. Makes sense.
so if you want, you can also do this. This is another way of using this tool. So let's go back to these teeth, and instead of like going, you know, in the minus area, you extract in the plus area, let's say like over here, and extract, accept. Now what you have created is basically like a mouth guard, because it fits over the existing teeth. So it's pretty easy to do this. It was probably a little bit harder to figure out that this tool existed would help me in my work. So.
Right.
But yeah, that's a couple of things that.
Cool. Yeah, they're making all custom mouth guards now for all the athletes, right?
Yeah.
They're going. Back in the day, I just got the old school ones. Cut here, put it in your mouth.
Put it in the pot.
Well, we warmed them up.
Boil it in the water.
Boiled them up and then bit down.
Yeah.
We did do that.
It's like a sock for your teeth.
I haven't worn a mouth guard in a long time.
Yeah. Better that you do, maybe. A sock for your teeth is how I look at it.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, maybe like one more really cool brush that I love is the ZBrush brush, because teeth come together, right? And if they don't come together, then it's really a nightmare for the patient, and you have to adjust a little bit. So a way of doing this is basically like, let's just pull this a little bit in, because we know that this is, what I do with the project brush is, let me just display properties, flip this. Okay, I think that, go back to maybe this one. So now like I can kind of see, you know, let's just make this a little bit more clearer. Color, fill object. So you can see maybe like with a better color, something more. Okay, you can see that, you know, where the teeth kind of stick out. So that's something that, you know, you don't want to have, and you can just use the ZBrush brush and, you know, flatten this to the perfect occlusion, you know, and I mean, you know, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Then it's all like what it's supposed to be, at least. Maybe you have to run it again to Exocad and kind of make the occlusion better, but this is a very good tool for dentistry.
That's awesome.
Some pretty fascinating stuff going on here.
I'm waiting that you guys come up with the alignment tool. So that thing I really...
A colliding tool?
Alignment.
So like, if you have two arches and you kind of combine them in one scan, they will come together based on the third...
There is an alignment tool now that we can show you.
Please tell me.
Yeah, we'll show you.
Please
there is alignment. We just released it in a couple versions ago.
Careful what you ask for,
We'll definitely
Dr.
have to sit.
Zhivago.
We'll have to sit this week. We'll see if it works for you.
Careful what you ask for with the ZBrush team.
Yes.
You're always one step ahead. Here we go.
I mean, that's in large pretty much, you know, I use Boolean tools as well to work on implants, but this is pretty much the basics. So yeah.
I figured I was going to ask you that, and then I'm glad you
I
said it.
love that stuff. So this is really good.
Okay, cool. What do you got? Any questions on there online or?
No, I think we got to wrap it up and get on to Dan, actually.
Okay, well, listen, we've taken a bite out of day one here, the formal sort of ZBrush Summit. Dr. Zhivago, thank you very much. Paul Zhivago, an NYU fellow as well. Really great presentation and very thoughtful.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really honored to be here.
Yeah, very informative. Well, sit tight. Louis Tucci here live with Paul Gabry. We're going to do some prize
giveaways.
We're going to do some prize giveaways. I knew that. We're
Prize
doing some
giveaways.
prize giveaways. Paul Gabry is going to take it away with some prize giveaways. Yeah, Paul, again, was a great demonstration. And changing the world one smile at a time is the line for the day.
Thank you, Paul, for joining us. It was great.
Thank you.